Hi guys, Ellie Duzette here. Long time no see, but we have some big stuff coming up in just a few days, so I had to talk about it. Let me pull up the chart uh, because we have some big shifts that are going to be happening on, let's see. Well, okay, it says May 24th at 11:36 p.m. And let's see, today's the May 23rd, so we're looking at tomorrow. Tomorrow, Saturday. Um, this is the special thing that we have to pay attention to. Saturn is going to enter Aries at 0000 degrees, the only way that a planet can ever enter anything. And this is going to be a really big deal, and it's going to impact um, the function of nations, and we're already starting to see that. I think probably a lot of us have seen stuff about the Trump meeting with the president of South Africa. Um, and I probably should have just made a whole video just about that, but that was taking place as Saturn was at like 29.5 degrees of Pisces and making some interesting like sextiles over here to Uranus, which are ongoing. Okay, right over here, this Uranus and Mercury situation. Um, is indicating, unexpected events involving countries and how they're communicating. And I say countries, but Taurus governs land, and that's why I'm saying that, is that unexpected events involving land and lands and how people are thinking and communicating about those things. And um, man, and so Saturn has been in Pisces for a little while now, and to understand the significance of having Saturn enter Aries, we have to kind of back up all the way to 2003, which is when I believe Uranus first entered Pisces. And this was the first outer planet in a kind of a long time to enter the realm of the chart known as Pisces, okay? And the thing that we have to understand about Pisces is that Pisces is the sign of the outcast. It's the sign of the reject. It's the sign that dissolves all boundaries, the sign of compassion at the expense of groundedness in reality. Pisces really is not very grounded in reality. And I can say that I have a Pisces moon. I have a lot of stuff in Pisces in my own chart, which I think is balanced out by my Virgo sun. But where Pisces is in the chart, people can tend to be a little delusional. Um, they can kind of sometimes blur the line between reality and, illusion. And Pisces, again, is known for its focus on outcasts and rejects. And when you start getting a lot of outer planets in Pisces, we see a lot more focus on normalizing and having compassion for outcasts and rejects, for populations that have historically been looked down upon. We're going to see them platformed. We're going to see them given a voice. We're going to see them honored and even put above populations that have traditionally been the ones that have been above. Does that make sense? And I think we have been seeing that in a serious way since 2003. It's been over 20 years now that we have seen this kind of flip-flop of, um, and we even use these words like privilege and a big focus on who has had historical privilege, who has like historically not been so privileged. This is super outer planets and Pisces vibes, okay? And we've been there for 20 years. And guys, it's ending, okay? It is turning around. The train is stopping, and it's gonna be ugly for a lot of the people that have enjoyed the privilege of being acknowledged as underprivileged. Does this make any sense? All of the outcasts and rejects and populations that have been kind of glorified in the past 20 years when historically they were more downtrodden, the downtrodden is returning. And it's basically returning tomorrow, like literally tomorrow, as in May 24th of 2025. We are going to start seeing some big shifts. Now, so on my Facebook page, when Epstein was found in his cell, uh, I don't know. It just is what it is. I started posting all the time about like Epstein did not kill himself. Epstein did not kill himself. Like we need to investigate this. We need some arrests. And one of the big complaints about the new administration has been that there have been no arrests yet. But we have to understand that the weather wasn't right for that. The weather becomes right for arrests as Saturn enters Aries, which is happening tomorrow. You can think about it like this. For the past 22 years, have you heard the term FAFO? F-A-F-O? It stands for fill in the blank around and find out. Okay? Mess around, find out. And the idea is that you can do weird stuff, but you're going to get weird prizes. You can mess around all that you want, and eventually you're going to find out why it was a bad idea. The past 22 years have been an exercise in the FA part of the equation, and we are about to enter the FO part of the equation, and we're going to see a little preview of it starting tomorrow up through about, I'm going to say September, October. And then we're going to see it hit real hard, harder than probably most of us can even envision in February of 2026. So, what is happening weather-wise is that tomorrow Saturn enters Aries. Aries is the opposite of Pisces, where Pisces has no boundaries and Pisces really feels bad for like those murderers out there. They had like a tough childhood. We need to understand them. Aries is not into that. It's gonna say, no, if you're killing innocent people, then you probably need to like face some serious penalties for that. Like the compassion is out the window. Aries says, remember that Saturn is the Lord of karma. Saturn is the planet that it is the planet of FAFO. It is the planet of finding out, what happens when you mess around. And it's the planet of finding out what happens when you do really good stuff as well. Saturn always brings back consequences. And that is the thing that we have to understand about Saturn. It was historically known as the Great Malefic because people thought it was bad because they would see that when Saturn was making these different transits, bad things would happen. But I think it was mostly because a lot of people were pretty bad. And if you do a lot of bad stuff, Saturn's transits are going to come and kick your butt because you do bad stuff, then you get bad rewards. But if you're doing good stuff, Saturn brings you good rewards. And so how this transit plays out for different populations, we have to keep an eye on it because Saturn is going to be bringing everybody exactly what their consequences are. And that is the understanding that we have to understand as we like go into all of this is that these aren't necessarily divine punishments, although they could be. But it's like separate from that, the energy that is happening is that everybody in the whole land, their compassion is going to run out and they are going to say, I'm tired of feeling sorry for you. Maybe you're a victim because you made really crapo choices and you deserve what you get. Maybe it's time for you to suffer for a while and experience the consequences that you have created for yourself. We're tired of creating different kinds of safety nets for people that are not taking advantage of them in the way that we wish that they would. This is the kind of vibe that we're heading into. We are, earlier, in these couple of years that we've all hung out together on YouTube, I was talking about the the Libra Aries nodal axis that we had semi recently, and how the vibe there was going to be all about every man for himself. And that was the precursor to what is coming up. What is coming up now is that probably on steroids because the nodal path, it is a global energy. All astronomical movement reflects global energy. But within the solar system, we have the planets that are close to the sun and we have the planets that are further out from the sun. And the stuff that's going on close to the sun, that's going to be like Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, kind of Saturn's a little bit of a bridge. But those first four are going to be really personal. And the nodal path orbits the moon. So it's kind of a little bit more of a personal type of energy. The outer planets are considered the planets of fate. That's going to be like Pluto, Uranus, Neptune, and kind of Saturn because it's kind of that bridge planet. And those outer planets the planets of fate. They're dealing with um, global shifts over which no one individual can make a huge difference. Okay, the personal planets deal with the stuff that individuals can like really affect. The outer planets, you know, they are reflecting situations that are bigger than individuals. Okay. And the reflection is indicating that we are about to see some really big um, Aries style retributions for the behaviors of the past 22 years and then possibly even longer. You know, we just had Neptune enter Aries. And the thing, so I think I forgot to mention this, I kind of alluded to it. Neptune just entered Aries basically a couple of weeks ago, and then Saturn is entering Aries tomorrow. But they're both going to retrograde back into Pisces just for a few months, starting in September for Saturn and October for Pisces. And so, sorry, October for Neptune. They will both be in Pisces together again for the rest of October, November, let's see, December. And then I think Neptune enters Pisces again in January. And then Saturn enters it again in February, and then they converge at 00 degrees of Aries on February the 20th. And this is a huge big deal. This is incredibly unlikely that these two outer planets would both converge and be exact at the Aries point. Um, it indicates a total rebirth, a total resetting of the global order. And we're going to see the little preview of that between tomorrow and September. So let's see, May what, 24th, June, July, August. So we're looking at about 3 months where the next 3 months are going to be hinting at some of the retribution to come. So going back to the Epstein thing, I think that if we're going to see any big actions taken with that, we're going to start seeing more concrete stuff happening over the summer. And then we're going to kind of backpedal for the winter. And then once we hit February the 20th, those planets are not going back. We're not going to have anything, any of these big heavy hitter outer planets in Pisces for a long time. I mean, decades. And we're moving forward. We're moving into a new future. And it is going to be very uncomfortable for probably everyone, because even those who have been planting the good seeds in terms of like what Saturn is going to, return to you, we all have to deal with everybody else's choices, right? Like I can make really good choices, but like my next door neighbors, I have much better neighbors now, but the last set of neighbors would always throw trash into my yard, and like no matter what I did about it, they just kept throwing trash in my yard, and it was just like something I just had to like be mature about and like figure it out because no kind of communication was working, and like so sometimes part of our experience is dealing with the agency of other people. And we are going to see that really strong, especially in February, but we're going to see the preview coming right up starting tomorrow. So as we head into the summertime, I want us to understand that as we're reading the news, as we are assessing what's going on in the world as a whole, we have to remember that we are shifting out of compassion zone and into every man for himself zone, into you dug yourself this pit, climb out of it yourself. I'm not throwing you a ladder. I'm not paying for that. That's the vibe that we're heading into. And so we just need to be aware of it. And on a personal level, this is going to be a time where, on a personal level, we are going to start seeing some of the consequences show up from the past, as well. So we can look at this up on the global level, but personally, we are going to see how some of our decisions from the past are coming back to either bite us or bless us. I do believe that to some extent we can shift the outcomes of our bad experiences and bad choices to be blessings in the present if we are willing to basically repent. We have to change our hearts and change the part of ourselves that was resonating with those bad choices in the first place. We have to let go of old ways of thinking that were really toxic and shift into more positive ways of thinking. And when I say more positive ways of thinking, that's probably not the best way to think about it because I don't mean just like, the rose-colored glasses. That's not really what I'm talking about. What we have to do is align our thinking with what is real. And the more we can understand what is real in our lives and in the functioning of the universe, um, that is when we're going to find peace. You know, it's hard to experience peace when we are living in a space of like cognitive dissonance and um, when we're operating based on concepts that are not accurate. Okay, you can't build something functional in this world. You cannot build yourself a functional life and a functional way of thinking if you are invested in believing in things that are not in alignment with the structure of the universe. Okay. And so all of us have the opportunity to take that personal journey to discover how we can personally align ourselves better with the true nature of the universe. And that's where things like religion comes in, that's where things like philosophy comes in. And I always try to mention that everybody is obviously on like their own personal journey. I do believe that there are things that are objectively true and that you know, we have like our little personal truths, which we could call our personal perspectives. And like to us, we like truly believe these different things. And then there's like a bigger truth than that of how the universe objectively works. And probably none of us is going to become perfectly in alignment and align our own tiny perspectives to that objective truth in this life. I think it's a tall order, and all of us have our perspectives tempered by our experiences and by our generational patterns, and how we were raised, and these different inputs that we go through throughout our lives. And I don't know that we're here on this earth to become, perfectly in alignment with the universe in this life. And I'm not I'm not one that thinks that everybody has to agree with the same things to like be doing the right thing for their own path. I do think that all of us are on our own unique journeys and that God and the universe work together to help us on our path wherever we're going, and that eventually we will all figure out what's going on and we will eventually you know be as in alignment with the universe as we want to be. But I just want to mention this because everybody has different opinions and different perspectives, and it's okay that we all do. Um, our only job is to make sure that we personally, our own selves, are doing our best to look at our own lives and our own understandings and be a little bit objective about it and say, okay, God and my spirit, what am I looking at incorrectly? How can I realign myself so that I am in greater alignment with how things really are? As long as we ignore how things really are, we suffer. And sometimes we suffer, because of how things really are. Like even when we are fully aware of the reality, then we still suffer. But I want to tell a story really quick of one of my kids who has massive jealousy problems. I'm sure I've talked about it before on here, but this kid is so jealous of everything, and she has a true belief that everyone in the world has a better life than her. And I've had to sit there and say, why do you think that? Like you literally know people in your real life who you can objectively see have a worse life than you. So why are you so jealous? Why do you think that everybody in the whole world has a better life than you? And I said, you would be happier if you decided to just stop believing that and just start believing that everybody has a different life and we all have our own path. And like, my path might not be perfect, but no one else's path is perfect either. And like, what if we just accepted our lives as they are? And my kid at first she was like, okay, yeah, that sounds good. Yeah. Yeah, I should just stop being jealous and realize that we're all on our own path and that, you know, everybody's life is, you know, special for them. And then she kind of thought, and then she thought, but how could I possibly believe that? It's not true. The truth is that everyone else has a better life than me. And she like could not, she like is still stuck in there. Is still she's still there today. And she's just deeply invested in having a mindset of jealousy. But I think all of us kind of go through these phases. I know that I do. I feel like in the past couple of months, I've like been in that space, you know, where there's been like some cognitive dissonance stuff going on and these situations where I'm like, I know I would be happier if I believed something different, but it's not true. Look at the reality. But sometimes our perceptions of reality are not really that accurate. So, anyway, all that is to say, there's only one real being who has the full story and the full accuracy, and that will be our creator. And so it's really important to stay close to God and um, just take things one step at a time. And as things show up for us that make us question, maybe did I do the right thing after all? We need to turn to God in those moments and seek his direction on um, how we need to perceive different events. I hope that makes any sense. Well, as we head into this, just remember to keep that perspective. If you find yourself becoming a little less compassionate, this will be why, and it's okay. Um, I just think God is not all sunshine and rainbows, and mercy to the guilty is cruelty to the innocent. I read that quote. It's by some famous guy that I can't remember right now. It might be like Victor Hugo or something like that. But it kind of stuck with me because of a lot of the thoughts that I've been thinking lately, and as I've been studying all of these movements, mercy to the guilty is cruelty to the innocent. This idea that when we allow people to do horrific things and they do not pay a price for that, it is cruel to their victims. And there comes a point where the victims have to receive their justice. And that is the energy that we're heading into. Neptune and Saturn together in Aries. That is the energy of avenging the innocent. And it is the energy of realizing why certain outcasts were outcast in the first place. We had this whole Pisces time where we get to celebrate and be very proud of these different things that led people to be outcasts in the past. We're heading into a time where um, the perspective is going to shift. And a lot of people are going to kind of remember the historical reasons why things were the way that they were before, you know, before that Pisces outer planet time that we've been through. So we'll have to see how it plays out. But on a personal level, we've just got to keep our perspective, stay close to our creator, ask good questions every day of God and our own souls. And just remember that as you ask good questions, you're going to get better answers. The better questions you ask to God and your own body, the better answers you're going to get. And you can get way more answers than you think you can if you can ask different questions. And just real quick, a very quick story, that one of my friends was given this opportunity to move, but they were not sure that they really wanted to, and they kept praying, praying, praying. Is this the best move for me? Is this the best move for me? And they talked to me about this, and I said, have you thought about asking a different question? Because maybe it's not the best move for you, but maybe it's the best move for, your spouse and children and like all of the other people in your life that are really important to you. What have you asked about if it's the best move for them? And so this person finally prayed, like, is this move a good idea for everyone else in my life? And it was a sudden super yes, very strong. And this person had been praying about this for like weeks and weeks, but just the same wrong question. Sometimes we have to switch up the question. And a really good question to ask is, God, what question should I ask? What is the blind spot in my questioning? What are some new questions that I need to be asking here? When we ask those questions, we're going to get different answers. And those different answers are going to inform our growing perspective and enable us to move forward through this time of Saturn in Aries, where we are going to start seeing some big consequences from the whole time period that Saturn was in Pisces. So, okay, there you have it. I hope this was helpful. Um, I don't know. Hopefully I'll make more videos soon. Okay, well, have a great day. Bye, guys.